Hello everyone, and welcome to another Fringe Paranormal program. I'm Crystal Diff, the program coordinator with History Services, and this program is designed to explore some of the paranormal events that have happened in our area's past, as well as up to current paranormal sightings. Today we're going to talk about UFOs, or unidentified flying objects. UFOs are not always related to aliens from other worlds, but can sometimes be explained through natural phenomenon or even other known aircraft. There are many that believe that UFOs and aliens are just a new modern-day occurrence that people have created. But there are sources going back hundreds of years that talk about unidentified objects that have been seen in the skies. For example, on April 14, 1561, in Nuremberg, a news notice, which was an early form of a newspaper, reported celestial phenomenon that occurred over Nuremberg on the 4th of April. The report describes it almost as a battle that was happening in the sky between two opposing forces. Different types of aircraft were seen with different lights that nobody could explain. Today we have many different organizations that are working on registering these different type of unidentified flying object reports that people see within the skies. One of those is MUFON, or the Mutual UFO Network. There is also NUFORC, the National UFO Reporting Center. And you can also find different reports in newspapers over time. Florida ranks second in the nation, right behind California, for the amount of sightings that we have in our state. Florida was also listed on MUFON's top cases of the year in 2017, 2016, 2014, and 2013. In 2013, that report was based off of a sighting in Venice, Florida, so very close by. When we look closer into local phenomenon that has been cited, we can go back all the way to 1916 with some of our newspaper reports. A lot of these reports predate the existence of organizations such as MUFON, so we only have newspapers and oral histories to find such sightings. On August 16, 1916, the Tampa Bay Times released an article titled, "See Things Which Ain't Real Stars. Punta Gorda Officers See Mysterious Lights Across Skies." The sighting took place on August 6, 1916, near a Klein in Punta Gorda. These two officers, James Lipscomb and Leslie Lewis, were out in the area to make an arrest when they saw these lights coming straight towards them from the sky. They described it as an unusually bright star which seemed to be moving towards them from the south. But as the object came closer, there were two big bright lights which were clearly visible, and sparks were noticed flying out towards the rear. They could not hear the engine, or the aircraft, or the buzzing of a propeller. This is one of the earliest sightings that we've been able to find documentation of in this area. Another one from the Fort Myers News Press was published on October 19, 1966, titled, "People Sight Strange Lights Over Charlotte." The lights were first seen by an amateur pilot and his wife who were flying towards the area. They described seeing a bright white light with red and green blinking lights, which were alternating between red and green. The sighting was then seen by other deputies and citizens within the area. Calls started to come in around 8 p.m. to the sheriff's office in Punta Gorda, and Lieutenant Fred Shar was the first one to take those calls. They described the lights as just staying there, just hovering, where there was no movement. So they were not able to pinpoint that it was an airplane since the lights were not moving in any sort of direction. 6 different deputies reported seeing the lights as well. Lieutenant Shar and Sergeant Willie Kirkland used binoculars from the historic courthouse in Punta Gorda to see 6 identical lights. There were 2 in the west, 2 in the east, 3 in the north, and 1 in the south. This was overlying the entire county. Lieutenant Shar then contacted the MacDill Air Force Base, but they did not say whether they were going to look into these strange lights and did not say whether the aircraft was coming from their base. Again, we find some documentation where the people thought that maybe it was bright stars. The incident lasted over 2 hours, starting at 8 p.m. and going past 10:18 p.m. that very night. On October 27, 1973, again, the Fort Myers News Press put out an article titled, "Former Mayor Cites UFO." So here we have, again, more reputable sources for these sightings. So far, we've had lots of sheriffs, deputies, lieutenants, and now a former mayor. This one happened over Port Charlotte. Ed Hendrickson Jr., the former mayor, contacted Colonel Raschke to tell him about the strange phenomenon he encountered. He was driving off State Road 764 near Shell Creek and Prairie Creek when he sighted a large blinding light that he said was like the sun. The light appeared to be orange in color, round, and moving towards the stopped Jeep, similar to the first report in 1916 where the light was moving towards their vehicles. The object moved up and down and to the side at a distance of 1/4 of a mile. Then the object increased altitude and a side view showed a disc-shaped object. It emitted a stream of flames, like a jet, moving towards the direction of State Roads 74 and 31. Again, similar to some of the description in the first sighting in 1916. It increased altitude again and left a fluorescent glow and jet stream in the air. There was no sound. Colonel Raschke says that Hendrickson is a very reliable witness in the article because he was a small plane pilot, has worked in control towers, and was again former mayor of Punta Gorda. Raschke also describes having looked into the sightings to make sure that there weren't any other phenomenon happening that could be caused by natural sources, such as comets or stars. But looking at the star charts, he noticed that none of the sightings matched up with any of the stars that were out that night. Raschke also states at the end of the article that sightings have increased over the month of October 1973, where they receive about a call a day regarding unidentified flying objects. Nowadays, the internet has become an important tool in reporting these sightings. Instead of it just being newspaper articles that we have to sift through, we can find reports through databases such as MUFON or NUFORC. One of the more recent sightings that has been recorded on these sites happened over Port Charlotte on April 21st, 2020. The report states that the witness saw a cylinder-type object in the sky and that the phenomenon lasted 20 minutes. There was another report over Port Charlotte in January 22nd, 2020, and this was a rectangular object that was seen in the skies. On January 24th, 2020, there was another report over Rotunda West, this time being an oval-shaped object, and they describe it as being a 3-dimensional object near the intersection of Parade Circle and Pinehurst in Rotunda West. They took one picture and then a second picture about 30 seconds later. When they were taking the photos, they did not notice anything in the skies besides clouds and the colors from the sunrise. It was only later when they were looking at these photos that they found this 3-dimensional object that they had not noticed before. They said later that another photographer showed them a picture around the same time in the morning, just east of the location that the original witness was in, and that their picture also had a strange reflection that resembled the same object. So 2 different locations, 2 different witnesses observing the same object within their photos. These sightings and more can be found online, again through sources such as MUFON and NewFork, and they do have people that go out and try to research these inquiries. They do try to investigate to make sure that there were no other airplanes or other craft out in the area, that there were no natural events that were happening, such as meteors or stars that could be seen in the sky. And of course, through their investigations, they do find that some can be explained through natural phenomenon or by aircraft that we know to be in existence. The purpose of this program is not to sway you one way or the other, but to showcase some of the information that we found along the way during our research. For more information on the topics we just discussed in this video and more, visit padlet.com/historyservices/Fringe Paranormal to join the discussion. Thank you all for tuning in, and I'll see you next month with a new topic for Fringe Paranormal.